This is Steve DEACE.
All right, back with the final portion of a special edition of the Steve DEACE Show. It's the show that we have promised and threatened to do for years, and today's finally the day we're doing the thing. The 10 books every American should be required to read before acquiring a voter registration card. To recap, because we're down to the final 2. And, you know, this wasn't intended to be like a grand finale, but I kind of feel like, looking at what the final 2 books are, I kind of feel like it's going to be.
For sure.
All right. So, The 5,000-Year Leap by Cleon Skousen was the first book we discussed. That was my pick. Todd's first pick, The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt. Then we went to Aaron's recommendation, The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. Back to me for The Marketing of Evil by WorldNet Daily's David Kapelian. Then to Todd for On Two Wings by the late Michael Novak. The Cost of Discipleship by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, Aaron's next suggestion. I then went to How Now Shall We Live by the late, great Chuck Colson. And then we just discussed An Education for Our Time by Josiah Bunting. That was Todd's book we were just talking about before the break. And now we are down in these final 15 minutes and change to the final 2. Aaron, the final book that you would like to recommend to our audience is what?
Bonhoeffer by Eric Metaxas. And I think I think most people in our audience have probably read this, or at least are familiar with it. But you want to take a look, a real world look, a more modern than maybe the U.S. revolution, I should say, a more modern look at what the cost of actually living your stated beliefs or taking them to their logical conclusion, or at least your motivations to their logical conclusion, if that's where you feel led, then this is the book for you. Bonhoeffer by Eric Metaxas. And if you're familiar with The Mandalorian on Netflix, the catchphrase, "This is the way." You know, if this is ever re-released or reprinted, maybe that should be the title of the book. This is the way. Because Bonhoeffer was just not born into, definitely. I'm definitely a radical who's going to attempt to assassinate der Führer someday. No, this was a guy, and this is written about in the biography. He was in many ways a seeker. He was trying to figure out the way to go, and eventually his look and his studies and his travels and his thinking and his walk along the Christian road eventually led him to the place where I can't sit here. I cannot sit here and let this dude do what he's attempting to do to this country, to this continent, to the world. Something has to be done, and this is the way that I'm going to go about it. If you want to know what all of your stated beliefs, if you're listening to this show, it might require, this was just Bonhoeffer's, this was his motivation. This is what he was compelled to do. If you want to take a look at what the cost of he failed to do it, but he did it. He attempted to do it, at least. He did a lot more than emailing or writing letters at the end of the day, because there wasn't email back then. Just a side trivia note. But this is what the cost of carrying out what many of us say we believe may look like on some day, given the circumstances that we find ourselves in, given what we feel compelled to do in our spirit. This may be very well, in some form, what we are forced to do, or feel called to do, or compelled to do on any given day, by whether it's whether it's the Holy Spirit, whether it's just the cause. This is the cause, and this is our back against the wall. This is us in a corner. This may very well be the portrait of where we are at someday, or where we may be very close to right now.
This is one of the best-selling Christian books of the last decade. If Eric was here, he'd probably say what I've said earlier many times about A Nefarious Plot. He'll never write anything better the rest of his career. This is considered a a seminal work
Yep.
and biography. One of the things you learn in his story is he originally was kind of what we would call a liberal mainliner, correct?
Yeah.
And I think he actually did tours in the U.S. in the 30s
Yep.
about racial injustice and things of that nature. He was considered, the term wasn't applied to religion back then. It was still kind of in its nascent stages, and it had a wide swath of people who called themselves progressives back then. Woodrow Wilson is considered the first progressive president. Teddy Roosevelt called himself a progressive. Okay, so it didn't have quite the sting that the word has in our time, but in his day and age, he would have been considered more of a progressive Christian, kind of now he believed in orthodoxy, but politically, culturally, he would have been fairly liberal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so how did he end up with one application of his faith from one end of the spectrum? Was he involved in Valkyrie? Was that the plot that he was involved in? Was that? Okay. So how did he end up, hey, we can use public institutions to make human nature better, right? That's essentially was his message traveling the U.S. prior to the full ascension of Adolf Hitler.
Social justice.
Yes,
maybe.
he was preaching a proto version of the social justice message, from the pulpit. To now he is involved in Project Valkyrie, and this is the culmination of a failed state. This is what happens when we put too much power, when we entrust the state as a salvationary construct, as a divine, not an instrument, but a construct in and of itself, in something to be worshipped. When we entrust that level of power into the state, that it has the authority, the wherewithal, the power within itself to lift people to a higher plane of existence. This is the most ghoulish, wicked expression of that tyranny's manifestation, ultimate manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
And now he ends up essentially trying to assassinate the ultimate culmination of what he was frankly advocating. I mean, if you look at what Bonhoeffer was originally advocating and what Hitler was advocating, they're not really that much different. They just had different races that they thought the state should prefer. Really, right?
Mm-hmm.
Different races that they thought. Now, that doesn't mean there's no place for the state to practice racial equality in terms of the way that the laws are written, the way that the laws are adjudicated, correct? Right? That races are not given favor over another, right? But the idea that the state could make you not racist, that could change what's going on in here, in the chest. That if the state changes the policies, you can be redeemed in the heart. That's really the social justice message.
Mm-hmm.
Bonhoeffer believed in that, and then found out in his own era, in his own culture, what happened when everybody else did too. And now, at the end of his days, he's Samson in Project Valkyrie edition, tearing down the temples of Dagon, trying to plunge it face down into the dirt until he dies in a concentration camp, right? It's an amazing story.
Yeah, it's fascinating, Aaron, that two of your books involve him.
Yep.
Doesn't surprise me knowing you, but it's something we share. It's Braveheart at the end when he knows he's going to die, but he begs God, help me to die well. Like, this is inside of us. This fight of realizing, and I thought I had ideals. I thought I was fighting for them the right way, and this is sound and fury signifying nothing. It's just utterly flaccid. Please, God, rescue me from myself and let me do your will. And this, he figured that out, and we got to see it all play out like this. And again, he's ultimately, through his sacrifice and telling us about it, he's a champion of the greatest things of heaven.